orange rose, microchips us, iPhone cameras us, taco salads us, Obama us, Olive Garden us, White Phosphor us, Sabra Hamas, Hasbara sus.
Hello, and welcome to Bad Hasbara, the world's most moral podcast. My name is Matt Lieb, and I am your host for this podcast, and I am sick. I think I have strep throat. So, if I like cough or like I get choked up in the middle of, saying something, it's not because I'm crying or was crying, or, because I'm like a pussy or whatever. No, I'm like super tough. Everyone knows that. No, but it's because I have this strep throat thing going on. I think I got it from my baby. My baby's in daycare. And so my baby comes back with new diseases every week. Every week I got a new disease. Every week I'm sicker than last week. This week is strep throat week. So we're having fun. I'm having strep throat. If you want to support my baby and this podcast is my baby, but I have a physical baby as well. Once again, a reminder to everyone out there that we now have our own Patreon. That is patreon.com/badhasbara. You can sign up and you will get episodes of this show like you would, on any Patreon, but you'll also get the occasional bonus episodes. I do a lot of interviews with people. They happen at random times, and I take what I can get, and I'm going to start just throwing them up on the Patreon. But yeah, if in general you just want to support this, because we are also a demonetized podcast, because, I won't say it's because of the subject matter. It sort of is, but a lot of it is that I do copyright infringement quite regularly. Because I'm about that life. So join us at the Patreon, patreon.com/badhasbara. Also, people have been asking, they're like, hey, I want to give you some money, but I don't want to do a super chat, and I don't want to sign up for a Patreon. At this point, the closest I can give you to, have you be able to give me money is I have a PayPal. So just PayPal me then, I guess. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do the other things. I guess the super chat I can kind of see. They take forever giving that money, but yeah, PayPal me. Sure, why not? I like money. I'll take it. I don't fucking care. So do that. And finally, a reminder to everyone out there: if you are in the Sacramento area, I will be at the Punchline in Sacramento Sunday, March 17th at 7 p.m. I am co-headlining with my beautiful wife, Francesca Fiorentini. We are going to be at the Sacramento Punchline, March 17th, 7 p.m. Please get your tickets. There will be a ticket link in the bio. You can click it. You can buy tickets. If you're not around and you're like, oh, but I have friends who like comedy, tell them, please. I would love for your friends to come see me, especially if you don't tell them what I talk about or what I do, because that'd be funny for me to watch the look in their face when I criticize Israel. I only do that for like a little portion of the set, but still a sizable one. Anyways, please come to that. Okay, it's time to pod. It's time to introduce the world's most moral guest. This week we have the great stand-up comedian, personal homie of mine. We both were Bay Area comics, and now we're here. We started at the bottom, and now I'm sort of like middle bottom, and he's pretty close to the top. It's pretty sick. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, welcome Sammy Obeid. You're muted. You got to unmute your mic. You see under your name, on your, there we go.
Oh, you clearly don't have a producer for this show.
No, I'm doing the whole thing.
Usually they do that for you. They unmute the mic, and
I know.
They do that on Francesca's pod. Have you been on Francesca's pod?
Francesca's got a very professional pod. Francesca has a producer, has people making clippies and stuff. Oh, I got one guy, Adam Levin. He makes some clips. And I got a guy who moderates the subreddit, but I have yet to make enough money to hire a guy to unmute the mics for me. I'm still,
Well,
like I said, I'm in the middle now, Sammy. I'm not quite at the top. I'm not at Francesca level yet.
Well, talk to her. Maybe get some feedback, some notes. Because honestly, the set in the background's a little cluttered.
This is the same set. This is
Okay.
her set. I just changed the color scheme, except for one light bulb is no longer responding to the voice command. It's the Wi-Fi don't work on one of the light bulbs.
One of your headphones is higher than the other.
Yeah, that's just because I'm cocking my head a little bit, and the camera is at a weird angle. All right,
Okay.
Mr.
All right.
Perfect. What happened to you, dude?
I did Francesca's spot, and I saw how our real shows run. That's what happened.
You used to, you and I, we used to just sleep on floors, just doing stand-up comedy all over the world. And now you're, Sammy, I have to say, I have been watching your clips and whatnot online for a long time, and just, I feel like I can't even clock when exactly it went from like good presence to holy shit, this guy is blowing up. But I feel like you're kind of blew up.
Yeah, well, it's gradual. It comes in waves.
Yeah.
There was many plateaus along the way.
Yeah, and I would, I was there for some of them, and I wanted to talk to you.
You were there for all of them, actually.
I was there for all of them. I actually was responsible for at least 10 of the plateaus. I kept reporting, your accounts to the ADL, trying to get you taken off. But I wanted to talk about that specifically because I do remember a time, like when I've talked to a few people who have said, and I'm not, gonna try to like suck your dick too much, bro. But if I'm being earnest, people have asked me like, what are some, like people who, in this time of everything that's going on that you really admire? And I've said one of them is you, Sammy. And the reason I admire you,
the other one is Michael Rappaport.
Well, Michael is he's just crushing it on social media. I like to, both sides. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear from the victims and the victimizers. So someone's got to be unbiased. But one of the reasons I say you is because of the fact that I have seen you talk about, you talk about all sorts of shit in your act. You're not, you were never inherently a political, or you were never like, hey, I'm a political comic. You were from jump, like someone who I considered someone who did like kind of everything from family stuff to math. You're a big math guy, which I loved. And I would watch that, I think due to the fact that you are a Palestinian human being who's a comedian, you are eventually going to do some jokes about how you are Palestinian and do them in your very Sammy Obeid way. And I would watch how you would get fucking brigaded by like Zionists. You had your TikTok account like completely banned and wiped, right?
Yeah.
So
by the Chinese Zionist enterprise.
Yeah, their powers combined, and you cannot even dance about Palestine anymore. But like, are you back on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm back on TikTok. It actually, and I still don't have as many followers as I did when I got banned 3 years ago now.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I joined. I realized they weren't going to give me the account back, and so after 3 months, I got a new handle. Yeah. And it took me 1 year to get to 10,000 followers.
Jeez.
After losing 250,000.
Oh my God. And it's like, it's shit like that I think any comedian or anyone who's in fucking any industry, when you face like a consequence like that, you wonder like, is this fucking worth it? Like at some point you do make the calculation of like, maybe I should just not talk about this shit. Cause I don't know if there is, there's certainly not a career upside to it. But you wonder, like, if no one even sees it, I'm just destroying my career for no reason. And I think it would have been perfectly reasonable for you to be like, fuck this. I'm not fucking talking about this shit. You know, it's not worth it to fucking, you know, upend all of my hard work for this. But instead of doing that, you were like, no, fuck it. I'm just going to rebuild. Which is, I feel like, not to be funny, but that's like kind of a Palestinian trait, is to have your shit bombed by Zionists and then be like, well, I'm going to rebuild it. Yeah. It's fucking cool. It's very badass. So just letting you know. Yeah.
Thank you. And might I say, super fun getting banned and doing it all over again.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's like, people forget about the joy of rebuilding. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very Marie Kondo. Is that a reference people still know?
Oh, totally.
I don't know. I haven't left my house since 2020. I'm just watching repeats stuff. But yeah, no, it's very cool, and I want to play some of your clips and talk about some things that I think are relevant to this podcast, it being an Israel-Palestine podcast. But first, I want to hear from you more about like your life. Like, who are you? Like, tell our listeners like who the real Sammy Obeid is.
Well, that's one thing that I never do on stage, in person, or with anybody that I know or trust.
That's good.
If there's one thing that I keep to myself, it's me.
Yeah. You got to hide that from people.
Yes. I'll talk about literally anything but the real me.
Yeah. Fair enough. You know, no.
Yeah, you know, I'm a pretty simple. Well, I'm a simple but complex guy. You know, I'm into like astrology and stuff like that. So the moment I start talking about the things that I'm into, people start to lose interest. So
I'm now even more interested. What's your sign, bro?
I'm an Aquarius.
Oh shit, I don't know anything about that. But what's your moon in?
My moon's a Taurus.
Oh, I'm a Taurus.
Yeah, I knew that.
You knew that? How? Is that
I know. I keep track of people's signs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I keep it in a book.
Like a list?
Yeah, just to know how to treat people.
Oh, all right. How do you treat a Taurus?
Sternly.
Yeah. You got to treat me sternly.
Yeah.
I got like a big, I would say like I've got a big hide. And I'm stubborn, and you can whip the shit out of me, and I'll still forgive you.
Yeah. That's exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
No, of course.
But you're a Palestinian American. Are you from San Jose originally? Is that where you grew up?
I was born in Oakland. I grew up
in Oakland,
in the East Bay, Berkeley, Fremont. I grew up in the East Bay pretty much my whole life, except for living in Los Angeles for 12 soul crushing years. I've been pretty much a Bay Area guy.
Yeah. And that's where I met you doing stand up in the Bay, and you you were someone who did something that at the time I was like, well, you'll go down in history for this.
And you were wrong.
And I was wrong. Well, it was impressive. I mean, now you may go down in history for being the first comedian ever killed by a drone. But you did stand up for how many consecutive days did you do stand up?
Well, it's 1001, but it is actually 1002. people don't know about that extra one that I did.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I did 1001. The last night was at Punchline in SF.
Right.
And then on day 1002, there was this Palestinian organization in the Bay Area that wanted to give me my own award ceremony for completing the streak.
Yeah.
And I had killed the night before at Punchline. It was like the greatest way to end things. And then the next day they asked me to come at 3 p.m. for families. And like a lot of these people, like they're either recent immigrants or, some of them are refugees, like dire circumstances. And they want me to do my set. And I perform for Palestinian audiences all the time now, but even back then, this was a difficult crowd.
Sure.
And they handed me the plaque and then had me do 10 minutes of stand up. And that 10 minutes of stand up really made you wonder, is this the guy who just did Comedy 1,000 Days? And if so, what did he learn?
I love it. Is kind of like the worst way to go into a show where you're billed as guy who got his 10,000 hours, you know, and they're like, well, this technically, according to Malcolm Gladwell, should be the greatest comedy we've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
So did you bomb your 1,002nd show?
The irony that as if they deserved another one. I did. Yes, I bombed my 1,002nd. It was a tragedy, but they were still very gracious. They gave me, I still have the plaque in my room. It's
they let you keep it.
Yeah, they let me keep it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And it was nice. I mean, it was just very warming to like be welcomed by the community and that they recognized my achievement. It's just that, I wish I did it like a couple days before, so it wasn't the ending.
Right. Sure.
Yeah,
it's kind of, it's any weekend at a club, they make you end with a 7 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah, and it was a Sunday. Yeah, it was a
there's nothing worse.
A matinee Sunday show.
You could crush the whole weekend, and then that Sunday show half empty with a bunch of old people who are not sure how they got there. And you're just like, I was on a high. Right. I was on a high and you ruined it.
Well, they do that so that you feel better about the check that you get at the end of the week.
That's right.
You're like, that's right. This is what I deserve.
Yeah, you're right. I am a piece of shit. Thank you for my 300. But yeah, so you getting an award, by this Palestinian group in the Bay Area for doing something cool, leads me to talk about just kind of what has it been like outside of, groups of people who are either Palestinian or in solidarity with Palestinians. What has it been like being a Palestinian comedian, like before the 7th and after the 7th? Did you notice like a difference in either the way people received the material or in the attacks or any of those things?
Yeah. So, last year was the first year that I like had a following. And so suddenly I was doing this kind of national tour and I had people showing up at my shows. I was selling out shows for the first time. I've been doing, stand up for 17 years now. So I was 16 years in the game and finally had people there to see me and to listen. And so, 2023 was such a good year in retrospect, in that like I was finally doing stuff that I wanted to talk about. I was going beyond math and Israel Palestine. I was like talking about me, and I was making like subtle political commentary on the nuances of life.
Yeah.
And I was like, finally, like I'm free.
I finally get to do my jokes about being an Aquarius.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then October 7th happens, and I was like, shit, I'm Palestinian again.
Yeah.
And so the first few weeks of after everything, basically like October 7th through beginning of November, turnout out of my shows was really low. A lot of people bought tickets and were just too depressed to come out. Sure. Some people bought tickets and realized that I was Palestinian.
Hey, did we buy tickets to see Hamas at Yuck Yucks? What the fuck? Damn.
So there was a lot of no-shows in those first few weeks. But I mean, a lot of people had a legitimate reason. Like I remember I did 2 shows in Chicago right after the young boy was stabbed by his landlord.
Right.
And so there was Muslim people who were like emailing saying like, I can't come. Like there was a hate crime recently. Like I just don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
And so, so there was low turnout for a while, and it was like, I was still trying to just like frame what my angle was on everything. Cause I was
of course.
Everybody in the beginning was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, literally everybody except, Hamas and Netanyahu, who knew, were like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everyone except for, it was Hamas, Netanyahu, and Amy Schumer was like, ooh, I don't know. Like, I guess it's a wait and see for how bad this is going to be.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. No, some people had their angles quite ready on October 8th.
Yeah.
I was shocked at all these well-formed opinions on October 8th.
Yeah.
So I did what I normally do when something crazy happens. I kind of just stay quiet for a few days because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And
sure,
as somebody who'd been advocating for free Palestine for years and years, and then you see this brutal Hamas attack, and like, not the first thing. I'm not going to come. I mean, and a lot of people I know did this. They were just like, "Yeah, this is what you fucking get." I was like, I'm not doing that right now. I'm just going to lay low and see what actually happened, because the media is lying, and that you're going to find out the real information later. So why not just like take the time?
Yeah.
And so I did. And my initial statements were just very like heartfelt, like, I don't want suffering for anybody, let's just see what happens. And then started to formulate my opinions as the weeks went on, but I didn't really feel like I had any great jokes. And then in mid-November, like, things started coming to me, and I started to feel like I was in the swing and was able to like talk about it. And then that's when people started, sharing my clips that were coming out at that time.
Yeah.
And people, because the thing is, when everything, as a stand-up, it takes a while to perfect a bit, or it takes a while to get a bit to its place, especially for me. I'm very much like that. So I looked at my old catalog of Palestine material, and like every joke had like a little bit of nuance that just did not feel right for the situation.
Sure.
Like I couldn't post my Palestinians are so smart, they're like rocket scientists joke. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't the best one to post on October 8th. Yeah. So
still a good joke. A good joke.
I mean, all-time classic. But yeah, I had to hold back, and I couldn't post any of my old stuff. So it took me a while to get the new stuff. And then once I did, and people started sharing, and then suddenly people started coming to my shows to find solace at the time. And also to like, because as we found out, there's a lot of comedians who said some really fucked up things, either about the situation, about Palestinians, or comedians who just have been flat out silent, which is the majority of comedians.
I would say that's most of them. Yeah.
And a lot of our friends, it's like, you can't blame them. I would rather people not really have a take than have a really bad one. That's for sure.
Right. And I would, I'd rather people, like, if you're gonna not talk because you're scared, which is an understandable, thing to do. I think that's preferred, rather than kind of just doing something that is forced and is going to get you regretting that you said anything at all. I'd rather people, if you need the time, take the time.
Totally. Absolutely.
Although at this point, I would much rather all the silent people actually say something. That was early on.
I would love it. I mean, even if it's not in your stand-up, like just to say something about it. But I don't hold it against anybody, because I would lose way too many friends.
Right. I know.
Yeah. And even with that, like, like most people are very sympathetic, and knowing me, they'll say all the right things in person, and that's fine with me. I really don't care. But it's just like, comedy fans, people who are very much into this issue, are having a very hard time right now finding comedians who speak the truth that they believe in. And so fortunately, comedians like you and myself and a few others have been able to, fill that void for those people. Yeah. And so I've been getting a lot of new fans who are, down with the cause and want to support. And a lot of people who are new to the situation, but like, they're finally learning about it, and then they're learning about it through me. And that's something that I've been doing a lot of my career, that I find very gratifying, because people are always like, oh, what a joke is going to help. Like, actually they do. Actually, they help more than most things. Yeah.
I mean, the way,
I mean, maybe cutting funding and stop bombing first, but I would say
that helps more.
Yeah, that helps.
You didn't say jokes help more than that. You're still right. But I agree. I found that the help in the joke is not so much like the satire will change the world thing, or like a joke can change someone's perspective necessarily, but it's more in that, especially in a time when voices who are critical of the status quo are either silenced or just not readily available in any, mainstream capacity. It's very helpful for people to hear this stuff so that they know they're not going crazy. My experience has been kind of similar, and I want to ask you about yours, but what I get is that makes me feel very grateful is people who will be like, to paraphrase, some people will straight up say like, bro, thank you for, being an anti-Zionist Jew. I was starting to feel myself going pretty down the rabbit hole of being an anti-Semite. And you've kind of you've been able to like successfully separate Zionism and being a Jew for me, and I appreciate that.
Your dad wrote you that? That's
my
crazy.
dad wrote me that, and it's like very sweet because he's hated Jews his whole life. I mean, mostly himself, but his parents too. But yeah, no, like people, I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but people have been, a lot of Arab listeners and a lot of, I think, other Jewish listeners who weren't sure about how they felt like they were being gaslit. It's been helpful for them. I'm wondering on your end of it, are you hearing from a lot of like Jewish fans who are just like, thank you for humanizing Palestinians for me? Because
of course, yeah. I have a lot of Jewish fans, both anti-Zionist and Zionist. I have Zionist Jewish fans. I have a lot of Zionist Jewish fans.
Yeah,
and I have them. I would say the bulk of them, 90% of them, were fans from before all of this. Like, I don't think I've been accumulating Zionist fans.
I was going to say,
recently, but I've been maintaining a lot of Zionist friends and fans.
Yeah.
And I've lost a shit ton as well.
Yeah.
But
I can imagine.
Maintained. I get a lot of comments on my videos, even the most like, the stuff that I post, there's stuff that I say on stage. I'm pretty good with my words. I don't say anything that will ever like get me into actual trouble.
Sure.
But like the things that I post are even like more highly like refined. And so like it's hard for people to kind of like, I mean, obviously there's plenty of things for people to get pissed at, but like usually the comment that I will get from like the Zionist folks is like, hey, I disagree with you, but like I think you're really funny, and I think this is actually a great joke.
Your math checks out, and I appreciate that.
I was like, I said subtract Israel. No,
yeah. Have you do you think you have any, not I don't want to say converts, because you're not out there trying to like convert anyone to anything, you're just being yourself, but have you had Zionist fans who are like before time fans who have kind of maybe come around to the idea that their Zionism might be holding them back from the full spectrum of humanity?
Yeah, well, I've only had a few people tell me like, hey, I used to be Zionist, or I used to be hardcore Zionist, and you helped me see it another way. I've only had that a few times. What I have more often is, hey, I knew nothing about the situation. And then I saw a joke of yours and it made me look into it, and wow, I hear that a lot.
I love that.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that I've reformed Zionist, but I will say that I've definitely humanized Palestinians. A lot of people who don't know Palestinians personally, don't have a Palestinian friend, or see Palestinians a certain way, I've definitely provided something for those people. And
it's crazy to me because especially it's such a recognizable thing, I think, for Jewish people, at least for me, knowing how much ignorance can come from someone who's just never met a Jew before, right? Like I've always kind of felt like that was another thing with Palestinians that we had in common. It was like, I know people who just hate Palestinians knee jerk, but they never met a Palestinian in their life. Right. And it's one of the areas of disappointment I have with some of my Jewish friends who are just like so quick to demonize all Palestinians, where I'm just like, but you've left LA before. You've been in places where you're the only Jew. Like, you understand that not knowing someone of a specific nationality or ethnicity means that you should probably like hold off on this like passionate dehumanization of them. But
yeah,
I've been wrong.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm filled with hot takes. I wanna play some of your comedy. One of the clips I found I love a lot because you make such a funny point about being an American and the First Amendment. So I'll play that.
Did a joke about Israel because it was funny. And I got trolled on by this account whose profile picture was a Pokemon. So you know he's legit. And Pikachu said, criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic. And I said, why? He said, because it's a Jewish state. And I said, well, Israel is 20% Arab, so can I 20% criticize Israel? And last time I checked, I'm an American, which means I can criticize any country I want. Yeah, so that's one of the joys of freedom of speech. And I think that we should celebrate that, not only as Americans, but as humans. I think we should be able to criticize any country that we disagree with their government's actions. For instance, you guys remember what happened in 2022 in Iran? Horrible instance with the woman and the hijab, and the government cracked down on the people. Can we all agree that was horrible? And Iran's government, oppressive. Can we all agree that? Can we all agree that? Okay, see, that's Islamophobic, okay? Because Iran is a Muslim state. Yeah, do you see how that's silly? All right? If we can criticize Iran freely, we can criticize Israel freely, okay? They're both countries in the Middle East. They both start with an I. Sure, one's known for carpets, one's known for carpet bombing. I'm just saying.
Great bit.
Thank you.
Great fucking bit. And I particularly love you bringing up the First Amendment.
Pokemon. Oh.
Pokemon, yeah. No, I love anytime Pokemon is mentioned in a bit, I'm like, this is for me, dog. But yeah, I love that bit for, I mean, a multitude of reasons. Number one, and this has always been the truth about a Sammy Obeid like bit, is so many tags. You tag the shit out of your joke.
The irony is that it actually got cut off because so I have somebody who helps me post with social media, and you know, with Instagram, if you have to make it as a regular post, otherwise it will cut off at 90 seconds.
That's right, yeah.
And so the final tag got cut off, and I was very upset for like a whole day, but I had to get over it.
Oh, what's the final tag? Tell me that.
The final tag is I can make that joke because it's only 20% of my set.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful tag.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the points you make there is this is America, and I can criticize any country I want, and I feel like that is something that I see lost completely in the I don't know, discourse or whatever. Whenever you know, as highly politicized as Israel is, there seems to be a general consensus from both like the free speech right-wing fuckos and you know, like any liberal out there, that like when it comes to criticizing any other country, you know, it's fair game and it's expected and it's part of like living in a free society. But yeah, no, and this is America, and one of the reasons that this is the land of the free, home of the brave, is that you're allowed to criticize. You're allowed to criticize a country, and I love that. I think it's a great bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to also talk about another bit that you did that I thought was great, and you kind of brought this up a little bit earlier. I want you to expand on it, but like you started talking about how people say now you get like criticism about only talking about Israel or only talk about Palestine, and you did a whole bit about like, I'm a math comedian. I would like to be talking about math. Do you expand on that a little bit? Like, do you feel like when it comes to talking about Israel Palestine, it's something that you're doing because you're like, oh well, you know, it's I got some good bits about it, or do you feel, is there any resentment at the idea that because your existence as a Palestinian is so like automatically politicized that you feel like you have to talk about this? Or what? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a combination of all those things. I mean, it starts from like I will write about what I know about, and having Palestinian heritage and stuff to say about it. Like naturally, I just want to be able to talk about whatever I think about. The other angle is not a lot of comedians have that angle, so I like originality. And so, while there are Palestinian comedians and there are comedians who talk about Israel-Palestine stuff, there's not a lot. And so finding an original take on that subject is rewarding for me. Those are two motivating factors. After October 7th, the motivating factor was I've been talking about this for years. People are going to expect this from me.
Right.
And that sounds like a very, dry or not pleasant motivating factor, but it is a motivating factor because people I almost felt like people needed me to say something in a sense, as self-righteous as that sounds, but like, no, that's true. Having that motivation definitely drove me to like write the jokes and make sure that they were on point and deliver them. So there's all of that, like, but like, given that we're like on day 130 something.
128 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, I've got some really good sex jokes that I would like to talk, but like if they're not coming out anytime soon, because not to say like the people who, come out to the shows now are a lot more dry or conservative. A lot of them are more conservative. A lot of them are religious. A lot of them are Muslim, but like I am playing to this base right now. And I'm talking about this stuff and I find it important. I'm going to keep doing it. But like, I would love for this to all end so I can go back and just be free and be myself,
I feel you, dog.
Yeah.
That's where I've been at least ever since starting this podcast. Like where I find the most joy is talking about episodes of The Wire I just saw. Like that's my usual that's the podcast that makes money. That's the one that pays the rent, is me recapping episodes of TV. And God damn, if I just, if I could just do that, that'd be great. But I feel like, I don't know, at some point you're just like, everyone else seems to be too much of a coward. And this isn't ending anytime soon.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the police. They're going to come arrest me for speaking the truth.
I called them before the pod. It's a shame it took them that long.
I know. Well, it's LAPD. They really don't respond quickly. Have you gotten pushback from other comics or people being chill with you? Like, are people like, do you get pushback from other comics?
Surprisingly, I don't know if it's just scaled to what I'm experienced to, but because, I as having been posting about this for years and strategically, I would post bits when things came up, during the Great March of Return in 2018 or during the bombing in 2021 or, the situation in 2014. Every time something came up, I would post something. And back in those days, because I think my approach was a little more mainstream, maybe my following was a little more mainstream, and maybe the people who were sharing my stuff were a little more mainstream. I got a lot of shit back then. Yeah. And so this time around, it was different. I've got plenty of shit, but it's almost like people kind of are like, but he's going to say that, obviously. Like, even if they disagree, they're like, yeah, well, he's Palestinian. He's going to speak out. Like, so I've been, there's just some purely racist shit. Like that's, you just get used to that. But the kind of the pushback, it just feels scaled to like the people who are like supporting it. I feel like I'm getting the support to pushback ratio is way higher than it used to be.
And nothing from your fellow comedians, because that's for me. That's been the biggest shock for me was the amount of comics that. Well, number one, comics who I know personally who are currently mad at me, and then comics who I don't know who are. Posting shit that, I would say is racist as fuck and genocidal. Have you any comedians come after you, or at least privately in DMs?
No, I don't think it's surprising either. I think it's partially because if people knew me, they already knew my track record on this.
Right.
They already expected that I would say something. I also, like I said, I handle like I didn't in the beginning. I didn't go out and say like, yeah, Israel deserved this. I didn't say none of that stuff, which a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I avoided the heat in the time where you could get heat, and I started saying stuff at the right time, and basically,
It's so fucked up though, because there's a piece of that comes from a place of like, well, of course he's gonna be mad that Palestinians are dying.
Right.
It's like, why?
But he needs to wait at least 2 weeks.
Yeah. He's gotta wait a little while. It's kind of rude to be mad now.
Yeah.
Just the idea that like, well, okay, I mean, he's allowed to be mad about it.
Dude,
no one else is allowed to be mad that Palestinians are dying.
No, true. And true. And I'm sure that's why you get a lot of shit. I mean, you're Jewish, so I would expect that people would be giving you shit because you don't believe a certain thing, and people are like, oh, he's Palestinian, so obviously he's going to say that. And so for that reason, I get dismissed on a lot of the intercomedian hate,
Which, I mean, that's very nice. It's nice for people to allow you the ability to like, no, he can humanize him because he's one of them. That's just so sickening to me. But yeah, I've talked about some of the experience I've had with certain comedians who will for now remain nameless, mostly because they were private exchanges that I had, and but if anyone does something public, then I gotta point it out. So without further ado, I will show just a tweet I got recently. So Alon Levy, or Levy, is one of Israel's many Hasbara mouthpieces. He's out there. He's the social media guy essentially for Israel, which is such a shit job. Like, even if you're doing it at McDonald's, it's like sucks. But it's weird to have a social media manager job that will haunt you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
Like, he is, he's out there being the full-on face and mouthpiece for, this quote-unquote war in Gaza, a.k.a. The complete decimation of 2.3 million people's home and lives. Yesterday, during the Super Bowl, Israel started bombing Rafah. Where right now I think it is 1.2 million people have fled from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza, which is where Rafah is. They fled there, with Israel telling them that this was a safe space to go to while we, fight Hamas in the tunnels or whatever. And now they have begun operations in Rafah, and there's a huge possibility of a ground invasion. While that was happening, 2 Israeli captives were rescued by Shin Bet, which is like their special services. So Alon wrote, 2 more home, 134 to go, # no one left behind. To which I pointed out, 110 hostages were released via ceasefire, and it took 120 plus days, 13,000 dead Palestinian children, and at least 5 hostages killed by the IDF for you to rescue 2. And I checked my mentions, and the first one is Michael Rappaport, you could give a fuck Clownz Zo.
Clownz Zo.
I'm not sure who Clownz Zo is, but so Michael Rappaport is either this might be the first time, or maybe he's finally or he's known about my stance on this and has kept his mouth shut for a while. But I've worked with Michael a couple of times. I featured for him at Cobb's, and I featured for him over at the Sack Punch, and he's like one of those guys who you're like, oh yeah, he's an actor who's like who sounds like a comic. So he started doing stand up. And I was always someone who was like he's not bad for someone who kind of like, I respect anyone who's like trying stand up even when they're already a famous person and they're like, they know they're going to fail a bunch, because it's embarrassing. It's like really, there's a lot of humility goes into being a famous person trying stand up, because the crowd, they may like you because you're famous, but if you're not funny, you will bomb. And I imagine as a famous person, it's worse to bomb in front of people who once liked you. So I was always like, hey, good for him. He's trying and stuff like that. And yeah, ever since the 7th, this guy is lost his mind completely. And now he's finally aware that I'm out here advocating for a ceasefire. And now he's calling me a Clownz Zo.
Clownz Zo.
What do you think Clownz Zo means?
I think you have to go inside to answer that question.
Go inside where? The clown zone?
Yeah. I don't think that he. I think that he might be his first time using it.
I think it might be too. I think he's like. I mean, I don't. He's used to saying Dick saying Donald, and he's got a lot of Donald puns.
It's bozo and clown in the same.
Yeah, I think it's both those at the same time. But yeah, so I won't say that I'm like helping my career in any way, but I don't think Michael Rappaport calling me Clownz Zo will hurt my career too bad.
No, I don't think so. I think it'll help if anything.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so it's been interesting, kind of just like seeing which comedians are talking about stuff, and what side that they have been on. And I want to say that I love, Sammy, that you're out here in these streets representing the humanity of Palestinians, and I think it's fucking cool. I think you're
Thanks, man.
I think you're a badass dude. But let's get into some headlines this week. It's time for This Weekend Headlines, in which I go through some of my favorite headlines that are absolutely accurate from mainstream media outlets, telling us the news of what's going on in Gaza. First one. This is from the Associated Press. Breaking: health officials say more than 12,300 Palestinian minors have been killed in Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza. If you don't know what a miner is, there's a synonym for it. It's someone who goes deep into the ground and they collect either coal or gold, silver, various mineral deposits. You think that's what they were talking about, Sammy?
For sure. I think that's what they were talking about. The unknown Palestinian coal mining industry.
Yeah. I mean, they already got the tunnels.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. See, putting two and two together.
Yeah. So that's what I assume they're talking about. It's either that or they're talking about children. And in fact, deeper dive into this says there have been 12,300 Palestinian children who have been killed thus far, which is an insane figure. And the amount of, I think, kind of like trying to rewrite that in a way that doesn't sound so bad is horrifying and grotesque on levels that I haven't even begun to process yet. Because if I do, I think it'll make my brain explode and have an aneurysm. More headlines coming through. 5-year-old Palestinian girl found dead after being trapped in a car with dead relatives. Very tragic story that completely does not say how. How did any of that happen? Who was responsible? Why did it happen? For those of you who don't know, this happened in Gaza and there was a phone call that I think a lot of people have heard from the little girl in question who called to say that the car that she was traveling in was under attack by an Israeli tank. Everyone around her was killed. She was begging for help. As the tank got closer and closer, the phone call cuts off, and then later we find out that she was murdered by the IDF, and then the rescue ambulance that came to get her was blown up on the way there. They stopped a rescue effort, and who's to say why? Don't know why. Just cruelty for cruelty's sake, maybe? Who the fuck knows? All I know is I picked the wrong time to become a dad. I'll tell you that right now, bro. There was a time where I could just watch a movie and like if a kid fell, I'd laugh. You know what I mean? There's Instagram accounts, kids hurting themselves. I used to love it. Can't fuck with it anymore. Now everything pains my heart. And yeah, finally, last headline from the New York Times: navigating Israel's war when one spouse is Jewish and one is not.
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah, that is, listen, for some couples, according to the New York Times, figuring out how to talk about the war in Gaza is a hurdle in the relationship, but ultimately, one that has brought them closer. I love that. I love that. I'm glad we're focusing on like the the love lives of people right now. Like, what's going on in the relation? I want to hear about two people who are deeply in love, struggling to like talk about stuff.
I want to hear about somebody who got divorced over this.
Dude, that's coming.
Yeah.
The amount of Gaza divorces that we're going to see, and they're going to come from all sides. The most obvious one to me is people who are like, oh, I didn't know I was married to a sociopath. I'm going to have to divorce. The other one is going to be, I didn't know I was married to an anti-Semite. So I'm going to have to rethink that. And I will say the amount of like New York Times, like, what do you call it? Personal interest stories regarding the love lives of Jewish New Yorkers really tonally seems to be missing the mark of what's going on right now. You know what I mean? Have you ever been in a relationship with a Zionist before? Someone who was like openly Zionist?
Not that I know of.
Oh,
No, I mean, no, I don't think so. I honestly, like, I didn't really start dating a lot until my comedy career.
Oh, yeah.
And so basically I'd have to like look back at like who I dated in my teens and 20s and be like, and I
do you ever go through and check the social media just to
see where they're standing?
Yeah, I don't know. Who do they stand with? What if they have a fruit emoji or do they have a fucking flag? You want to know. You want to know who they're standing with. You want to know what color ribbon they got on.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's that's good. That's good. I mean, I would imagine. And I don't know if this exists, but as someone who thinks a lot about different, sex stuff, I imagine there's got to be like a Zionist lady, like who like likes to fuck Palestinians.
Yeah, it's a kink.
Like a kink thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
Well, I mean, I'm sure I've had the offer, but I haven't taken it.
Yeah. That's good. You have self-respect. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I dated someone who was a little anti-Semitic one time, but it was like part of it. I don't know. It just got a little weird. She wanted me to wear the kippah. And she kept saying she loved Jews. And, but then I went over to her house and she had posters of, what's his name? Fucking, what is it? Dean Martin, and who's the other guy?
Adolf Hitler?
No.
I was like,
what's his fucking name? Jewish comedian Dean Martin. I'm like blanking because I have fucking strep throat. Jerry Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
She had pictures of like fucking straight up posters of Jerry Lewis all over her room, and I realized like this like Jewish fetish she had was for like very like nebbishy like fucking Jews, and I was like, no, this is an anti-Semitic fetish, and you know, and she would hit me a lot. Anyways, I'm just saying, good for you. I'm glad that you have self-respect. And
I occasionally get like DMs from like a girl. She's like, hey, if you want to like grab a cup of coffee, just letting you know I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. I'm like, no, you had me at hey.
Yeah. You had me at like grabbing a cup of coffee with a girl. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Before we get out of here, I want to do just a couple of wonderful social media hits from the Hasbara sphere. Sammy, are you someone who watches Hulu? You ever watch stuff on Hulu?
It's been a while, but I have an account. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hulu has been running this ad recently that, once again, mouthpiece of Israel, Alon Levy, posted recently. This is a video from Israel's PR department that is made. Well, I'll just play it for you. Here it is.
Come visit beautiful Gaza. With its stunning beaches and charming boardwalks. You can stay in one of our 5-star hotels and get a taste of the best in Middle Eastern food. Embrace the vibrant nightlife of the city and experience a culture rich in tradition that this is what Gaza could have been like without Hamas.
So, for those of you who are listening at home and didn't have the pleasure of being able to view this wonderful ad that happened in between episodes of, you know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or whatever the fuck you're watching on there. The ad, you know, plays a lot like a you know, travel fucking, you know, the tourist board of Gaza. Come visit Gaza. And if you probably didn't notice upon first watch, all those images were AI. Did you notice that, Sammy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You really, I mean, you gotta be impressed with the like commitment Israel has to not using any Arab labor that if they can help it, you know what I mean? Like they're just like, no. We can make AI can make guys for us to hate.
I think we figured out who posted the Taylor Swift images.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, it is very similar. It's I mean, but those are good though. I didn't see them, but it's wrong. I'll say that.
No, for sure. It's wrong. For sure.
It's wrong. But yeah, that was, it just like, that's fucking crazy to me because the entire refrain of like, this is what Gaza could have been like. You know, if only.
It's the classic, this could have been us.
Yeah. This could be us, but you playing. But you playing with fire.
Yeah. This could be us, but you Hamas. Yeah. That's the new meme.
I love it. This could be us, but you Hamas. Yeah, it is. It's just it's such a sickening thing that they've been doing. This idea of like, you know, why didn't Gaza turn into this flourishing, you know, it's like, it's a beach city, you know, it's got Middle Eastern food. It could have been all these things if only it wasn't for Hamas. Which, you know, if you want to get into the history of the Hasbara, there is the idea that Gaza was a sovereign entity because of the pullout of the Israeli settlements in 2006.
Yeah, it's not an occupation, Matt.
They
pulled out in 2005.
Exactly. Because they pulled out. It's not an occupation. And, you know, then they elected Hamas And then Hamas, because of the election of Hamas, now,
and they voted for Hamas.
They all voted for Hamas
democratically. All of them.
All of them individually and in perpetuity, progeny included, voted for Hamas. And and this idea that in one aspect, they're right. They're like, if it wasn't for Hamas, it wouldn't have been this way. Now, it would have been this way either, no matter who they had elected, had it been, Fatah, or, fucking any branch of the Palestinian Authority or whatever party. But, part of the Hasbara has also been the idea that because Hamas was elected, they went in there and they just started doing a civil war and they started killing Fatah and anyone affiliated with the PA. Not actually what happened. What actually happened was Israel did not accept the results of a democratic election of Hamas. And instead, what they did was they and the United States colluded to do a coup d'etat and install their hand-chosen leaders, I think through Fatah. And then Hamas said nah, and then there was fighting. And then with Hamas coming out the winner, they decided to do a full-on siege and blockade. So they are blockaded from air, land, and sea. No one goes in, no one goes out without a permit. And it's been a siege. So really, it's fun to watch the same propaganda over and over again, and everyone is just supposed to never learn about these subjects ever.
Right. But I like how they're always like, it's not an occupation, like as if total blockade and siege sounds better.
Right. Yeah. It's a siege.
They are a free caged people. Okay?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's like, have you ever had a cage-free egg? It's like that. But yes, it's true. Eggs are caged by their own shell. Right. But that's natural. Basically,
it's organic, but not cage-free. Basically.
Right. Exactly. It's organic. It's free range.
It's free range, but not cage-free.
Exactly. I mean, listen, you can parse this any way you want. All I'm saying is they could have done anything with the amount of food and money we let in there. But they you know what they did? They built terror tunnels. And by terror tunnels, I mean they built tunnels in order to actually smuggle enough goods in there to feed their population. It is it's a lot of fun. It's it's great. Before we get out of here, just a few final thoughts. I wanted to talk to you about our previous manager. If you have a minute. We both were represented by the same person, and I think we both were eventually dropped by that person. Well, before I get into that, have you faced any consequences from management or from are you represented? Do you have? I'm
not repped, so I'm also just kind of at liberty to do and say whatever at this point.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's both good and also insane. Because you are a incredibly successful comedian who propped themselves up, and usually people are chomping at the bit to at the very least leech. It's like it's nice to be leeched from because that you feel good when you're like, oh, this person is. They think I'm special enough to leech off of. You know what I mean? Even if they're not going to help you, nice. It's it's nice when there's a guy and he's got a business card and he's just like, I'm just going to suck a little bit of your blood. You're like,
it's nice to be wanted by a man in a suit for sure.
100%. But at one point, we were both repped. And did you now? My experience with this manager, who will not be named, is I don't know if he was somebody who dropped me necessarily because of Zionism / anti-Zionism. Did you get any sense whatsoever that was involved in his decision not to continue working with you?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just you. I think the problem was you. It's always been you.
Fuck!
Nice try, Matt. But yeah, no. I mean, the thing is I believe, because my approach has never explicitly been anti-Zionist.
Sure.
Like, I've never been as harsh with my words as you, and namely, and many other people. Like, I being Palestinian, I'm also like kind of limited to,
Right.
playing within a certain tone in order to remain, beloved and endeared. So, so within that framework, and also within the framework of back in the day, a lot of my sketches were done with my roommate Toby, and we were doing Israel Palestine stuff.
Right.
That was like, some people found it too normalizing, and some people found it like too cute. But like, I think that like, my manager at the time was, he said he liked it. And he even, I had like a chunk of material on the situation, and he said he liked it, and he put it in my submission for Just for Laughs.
Nice.
And they rejected it. So it wasn't him. But
yeah. Well, that's nice.
yeah. But again, at the same time, you and I were speaking different truths. So
yeah, I was literally working for Al Jazeera.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
which was his. I think it was the first time that he was just like, "Hey, Al Jazeera does comedy now," and it's like, "Well, AJ Plus does."
Right.
But no, it's just, it's always interesting. I think like one of the I think scary things about the idea of a blacklist is, it's not like McCarthyism in the sense that like, I'm not worried about comedians getting like taken in front of like a congressional hearing. I mean, that would be sick. I would love to have that stage time. But it's like, more so blacklisting is done in the way it's always done, which is you just don't get the job that you tried to get. You end up putting yourself out there, putting your name in, putting your packet down, and you don't get it. And you don't know why you don't get the job. You just don't. And so I think it's one of the things that makes this industry a little bit, precarious, is that you just keep doing free work in hopes that someone gives you money for the work. And it's one of the reasons why people don't want to fuck around with politics. They don't want to fuck, or with any hot button issue. Was there ever a time where you felt like you were maybe being like in any way like held back or like not getting something due to being Palestinian, or
It's unclear. I don't have any like direct evidence, and so I don't like to speculate.
Sure.
If I don't have evidence, I will say I was fully repped. I had manager, agent. Like, the industry was very interested in me in 2014, and I posted one sketch in 2014 when it came out. I started talking about it on stage, and then in 2015, Last Comic Standing aired my Palestinian joke.
Yeah.
So first of all, I do know that it was Wanda Sykes who was like, "Hey, I booked you because of this. I like that you're talking about it." And so she was actually like, "Hey, like, yeah, you talked about it."
Shout out to Wanda.
Yeah. And but then I didn't get any further in that competition, and then later that year I got dropped by my agency. So like there was a timing alignment about like when I became like publicly talking about it versus and getting dropped and getting kind of lost in the industry. But the manager we speak of, he stayed with me. He stayed with me for years. So
yeah,
it's really hard to say. But that said, like, for somebody who I try not to be cocky when it doesn't matter, but for somebody who does like extremely well on stage most of the time in every Hollywood room, like especially the industry rooms that I did, and like crushed every audition and crushed every showcase set, it was surprising to me that I didn't get much attention from industry post 2015.
Yeah. And I think surprising to this day that your success has been entirely self-made, and you are like still not repped. And have there not been offers, or is it just been like, you know, like,
yeah,
are you picky?
Yeah, I am very picky, but surprisingly haven't even had the opportunity to be. There's only been
Weird.
I believe when it comes to management, I've only had 2 offers. The one that we speak of, and this was when everything was buzzing for me. Like I got Conan, I'd finished my 1,000 days.
Yeah.
It was like, it would be a mistake not to rep me. And at that time, like a lot of other people were interested, but he got me. And then I got with an agency and everything like that. And then kind of got like lost from the graces of industry. And the manager we speak of, we had parting ways during COVID. So it's like everything was falling apart. So like that kind of made sense. But I had a Netflix credit, and then like, you know, I did the Zoom stuff a lot. So I had a kind of this presence during COVID. And then a manager approached me the following year in 2021 because of a reference from a friend, and very, very sweet man. He kind of an old school guy. He repped a lot of people like in the 90s.
Yeah.
And he believed in me a lot. He like very old school.
I love it.
He needed an update on like how things were.
Yeah.
But
how do I contact you if I don't know your address?
You know, seriously, he's like, let me call up. I'm like, no, you don't. You can just email. You know, like it was
like,
it was a lot of that. Yeah. But he was a very sweet guy, and he believed in me, and he also really supported the Palestinian angle. And he was
wonderful.
He was a Jewish man. You know, was very, very supportive of the Palestinian angle. So
Yeah.
I was like, dude. I was like, I fuck with this guy. Like, if he believes in me, he likes what I do. Like, I'm gonna find. It ended up not working out over some business stuff later on, but we were kind of working together for like a year, and then since then, like nothing, nobody. I have a college agent who I've been with for years.
Yeah.
You know, because they like diversity. But like,
you know how much colleges love those Palestinians. They're always
right.
We have to keep kicking their groups off of campus.
We have a booking for you at Harvard.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah. So really, like nobody else has approached me. Like not even once.
Well, I know that this podcast is listened to by tons of managers and agents.
Yeah.
You know,
they watch it to get mad and potentially find talent.
Yeah. They mostly just watch it to see who they're gonna blacklist. No, but listen, I just think it's insane because you've consistently been one of the funniest people from the jump. I mean, you know, I don't think I knew you when you were not funny. I'm sure you were not funny at some point.
For sure.
But you're an immense talent. And listen, if I, it's like, this is why I wish the Jews did run the media, because then I would run the media, you know, and then I would be helping. I'd be doing all sorts of like cool shit.
I appreciate it.
So just know that, like, you know, if I ever had the power, I'd help me first. And you like probably third though, dog. Probably third.
You got a wife and kids, man.
Yeah, that's why I said third. It'd be me, my wife, and then you, and then my kid.
And then your kid, yeah. Thank you.
Well, she doesn't contribute to shit, so.
Right.
Sammy, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking about this shit with me.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And I just want to point out once again, Sammy, where can people find you? Where can people get your stand-up clips, and where can they see you perform?
I'm on all the socials at Sammy Obeid, except TikTok, because I had to make a new handle at Sammy Obeid them. But go to Google. You can put in Sammy O. It usually autofills the rest, so you don't have to spell my name. And I'm doing a nationwide and international tour, so you can catch me pretty much everywhere this year. If a city's big, I'll hit it twice or 3 times in a year. Coming up next, I got DC, Pittsburgh, some Hawaii dates, New York, Jersey. You name it, everywhere, basically. So check it out on my website, sammyko.com. Just Google Sammy Obeid. You'll see me.
Google Sammy Obeid. Go get tickets to wherever he is performing. I can't recommend enough watching Sammy do stand-up live.
Thank you,
you know, if you're someone who watches clips are great. You're not even getting close to how good it is to watch you, because you're a great comic, bro. You're great.
Thank you,
buddy.
I appreciate that.
And thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Yeah. Thanks everyone out there for listening. Check out badhasbara@gmail.com for, you know, or write to us, badhasbara@gmail.com for all your questions, comments, concerns, stories. Let me know. Patreon.com/badhasbara. And all right, everyone. Thanks again so much for listening. And until next time, from the river to the sea, I think my manager